9th of May it is. Let's bring you up to speed with the papers today. Press Review, the Standard newspaper, today leads with a focus on governors, and the headline is Kidero humbled. Ruto is back and 12th on removal list, and this is as far as the leadership of the governors in the country is concerned. This elections happened yesterday. So governors re-elect Ruto to chair their council. Kidero failed to get proposers, and Bomet governor blames URP over threats to impeach 12 of his colleagues. Isaac Ruto there, you see his picture. You have Martin Wambora. He was impeached. Senate cleared his removal, but court upheld his election. Then once again, Embu MCAs impeached him, and his fate is back in the Senate. So one of those cases in point that are being cited by Isaac Ruto. The Council of Governors has accused the Jubilee administration of sponsoring motions to impeach governors perceived to be out of favor with the ruling coalition. And Ruto specifically is accusing the URP wing of the Jubilee coalition. Of course, other governors there highlighted for you, pictured as well. And that story continues on page 2. And you have Duale claims on Ruto that Ruto has been holding night meetings with leaders from the Kalenjin community in an attempt to undermine Deputy President's political support in the region, claims which the governor has denied. That the Jubilee administration would support removal of county bosses who mismanage public resources. These are the words of Aden Duale, the National Assembly Majority leader. And that Ruto is working with Raila Odinga's party to destabilize URP in Rift Valley, because Ruto has come out strongly to criticize URP. So it is seen by the other Jubilee supporters, and more specifically Duale, who's spoken out about the issue, that Isaac Ruto is trying to destabilize URP and to undermine the Deputy President's power, and perhaps allegedly could be working with the opposition in that regard. Read more about it on page 2. Also on the front page, killer drink, Nakada CEO sent home, brewers to face murder charges. And it is in that story that has been developing over this week, from the time those deaths were reported, the death toll now at about 90, and those still admitted in hospital standing at about 170 thereabout. So the government has cracked the whip following this week's wave of killer brew deaths by closing down a manufacturing company, interdicting as well top public officials in the liquor and drugs control units, and declaring their producers would be charged with murder. The suspended include the chief executive of NACADA, which is National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, Dr. William Okedi, and 52 officials from the agency and regional police heads. And the Anti-Counterfeit Agency Chief Executive John Akoten was also among those sent home, and that was when the Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku made that announcement of those that have been interdicted, promising investigations and charges as well on those found guilty. Page 6 has more details. On page 2, there's also more details of Ruto retaining that Council of Governors chairmanship, Kidero thrashed. But also another story that's on the same page, the chief of the Defense Forces, Julius Karangi, here risks being arrested. And the High Court Judge, Edward Murithi, has warned the Chief of Defense Forces, Karangi, against disobeying court orders. So he has been said to be in contempt of court. He said that if the ex-soldiers were not released by yesterday, the lawyers should file contempt proceedings against Karangi. The judge expressed disappointment at the behavior of some KDF officers leaving in the past without realizing that there is a new constitution which every arm of the government must respect. Page 3, Life Today feature is all about saluting women who have dared to make a difference. And it was a celebration of high flyers, Okolo and Mutungi. And that's the Director of Investments of Wambira Network, Oriokoro, who's pictured on page 3. And also, there is the Baringo Senator Gideon Moi's wife Zara at the center, and KQ's Captain Irene Koki Mutungi at Lord Arrow in Nairobi, and they were honored for their achievements that have put Kenya on the world map. This happened on Wednesday night, as I mentioned, at Lord Errol in Rundo, and the two world-famous Kenyans achievers were honored during a special ceremony organized by a group of their friends. Read more about that feature there. Also, in the Standard today, Bensouda given more time to respond on witness coercion. Her words in as far as just trying to put together the cases and the witness challenges and trying to get statements, especially financial records of President Kenyatta from the Kenyan government continue. Ruto had asked to appeal decision to force witnesses to testify as trial date moved from May the 12th to May the 14th. So the ICC prosecutor Bensouda has up to Friday next week to respond to a plea by the DP to be allowed to appeal a ruling compelling 8 witnesses to testify against him. Remember, Ruto's counsel have argued that the witnesses should not be coerced or forced to testify. If you like, they should do it at their own pleasure, which is not what the Chief Prosecutor Bensouda has argued. Sources at the DP's office said Ruto is expected to fly out of the country on Tuesday to attend the proceedings, as was ordered by the ICC judges. So he will be in attendance for that. Of course, remember, he is excused from some proceedings, but there are those that the judges require of him to attend. And when that happens, then he must be physically present in court. Also on that page, ISA settles dispute with employees. You can read about that. Killer brews, the details continue on page 6 with death toll from the brew rising, and of course those as well that are still in hospital, about 170 plus. And on page 7, the Nakada boss, the CEO among 52 officers and parking, those details as well continue on page 7. Page 8, we've seen that story, that surprise visit by the president yesterday following the ongoing squabbles, of course, squabbles in the lands ministry. So he did visit that, but on page, did visit the lands ministry, but on page 8, it's a different story where Uhuru is lauding South Sudan for freeing political prisoners. It's also been turmoil in that country. President says this is a first step to reconciling the state ravaged by fighting hostilities. And he held talks with 4 former Sudanese political detainees who paid him a courtesy call at State House, Nairobi. The detainees who were released and handed over to him last week are General Okiech Pagan Amun. There's also Ambassador Ezekiel Gatkuoth and others. Can read more on that story right there. Back page of the Standard, the fever pitch. Champagne on ice and Man City will be worthy champions. That's what is being said. So pretty much the winners out of all this. That's what their manager is saying. And they're all ready to pop that champagne and get into celebration mood, which I'm sure they already are in. City now require only a point at home in West Ham United on Sunday to secure their title, having taken their goal tally to 100 by vanquishing Villa with the second half onslaught at the Etihad Stadium on Wednesday. And there are the happy faces. It's always quite a joyous thing for the players to win these titles. Kenya to contend fiercely in the final IRB leg in London. So rugby news is still going on. You can read more on page 71. And Neymar's World Cup dream comes true as he makes Scolari's Brazil squad. So ahead of the World Cup, everybody trying to put together, all the teams trying to put together the best team for the games later on this year. Daily Nation now, and also leading with that story that we've talked about, 52 officials sent home as liquor firms are shut. And you have there the Cabinet Secretary Interior Joseph Olelenku saying some 175 people are still in hospital, a number of them in critical condition. Remember some of the stories we've covered for you, especially in Embu. There's one patient who just succumbed to their they were in hospital getting treatment but died later on. And tough new rules is some of the highlights here on the front page of the Daily Nation. Licenses for the manufacturers and distributors cancelled, and those found to have manufactured and sold the drinks to be charged with murder. and industrial alcohol to be colored to ensure it is not used in making alcohol in future. So breaking the network, police traced the origin of one of the killer drinks known as Wings, and they traced it to Mlolongo in Nairobi, so that's where that was made. However, the process of making and assembling the materials used to make the brew begins in Ruai. The challenges: brewers operate in residential areas, including from bed-sitters, making tracing them difficult. And remember when we were having that conversation yesterday, even with the director of NACADA, many of these places have no addresses. So as much as you're talking about the surprise, he was talking about the surprise visits, and going to check if these joints have the proper paperwork and are working and have licit brew. Some of them are in houses, so you can quite never know the challenge indeed that is in this war against illicit brews. Also on the front page today, the official results are expected in the South African elections, and it's a no-brainer. ANC is carrying the day, and they're planning a 980 million shillings victory feat for Zuma. Yeah, remember when there was 500 for Kenya? That was caused quite the concerns, and it was revised downwards, hugely downwards. But here we go, South Africa talking about almost a B to celebrate that victory. So they were yesterday preparing for President Zuma's inauguration ceremony after early results indicated that it was leading in South Africa's first election since the death of its freedom hero Nelson Mandela. The NC's Luthuli House headquarters in Johannesburg was confident it could win, being the party that has been in power over the years. And the story continues on page 2. Since 1994, ANC has led South Africa. So Zuma facing big credibility test. However, anything less than 60% of the vote for the ANC would be seen as a major upset and prompt speculation about Jacob Zuma's role as leader. And this is very likely with the political landscape right now in South Africa, the kind of concerns that the citizenry there have as well with the government. And Mr. Zuma has been criticized after the government spent 1.9 billion shillings, that's Kenyan shillings, of taxpayers' money to upgrade his private home. That caused quite the firestorm. And although election was held amid a mounting anger over joblessness, inequality and corruption, the turnout was estimated at about 70%. So quite a number of people did turn up to vote. And the eve of the ballot was also marred by isolated incidents of violence. And we did show you the day before yesterday, during voting day, just how tight security was. But despite that, there were reported isolated incidences of violence that were contained. Page 3, you have police called in as lawyers bicker over Facebook posts. So lawyer Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, formerly with the JSC, now says his life is in danger. And this is following a post on Facebook by Mr. Donald Kipkorir, who's also a lawyer. So on Wednesday night, Kipkorir allegedly posted on his Facebook page what appeared to be a warning to his colleague, saying that the latter had handled some cases about people from different parts of the country. And Kipkorir allegedly insinuated that he was the only bold person to tell Abdullahi the truth, warning, and this is what the post said, I quote, "Don't say I didn't warn you, fare thee well." Okay, that's the post that was put up. So Abdullahi has since gone to the CID headquarters. He was accompanied by his lawyer, who's pictured there, Paul Muite, yesterday at around 11 a.m. and left shortly after 2 p.m. And they are saying that they urged the police to take this seriously, to speed up the investigations. When contacted for comment, Mr. Kipkorir said he was not ready to issue a statement on the issue up until he was officially communicated to of these charges by Ndegwa Muhoro, who's the CID director, until official communication was made of the investigations. I beg your pardon. Kenyan politicians and policemen are least trusted people is also on that page. Just like in Kenya, doctors in South Africa are most trusted while politicians are least. and corruption is to blame for the low trust in Kenyan politicians and police officers, an international report by a market research firm has said. Doctors top list at 87%, followed by nurses at 86%. Teachers take the 4th place at 84%, with pilots completing the list of the top 5 at 82%. And that's a global study on trust in professions, 2014. Bruise of death. There's details on this, the officers that were interdicted, as on page 4. On page 5 as well, continuation of that coverage, and survivors fear as more friends die, and they are anxious as those who have died lately appeared to be recovering when their condition took a turn for the worse. And number of Kitui dead rises to 10. Families also to get help in paying bills. We did hear the Makueni County government has pledged to cater for medical and funeral expenses for the families of poisoned drink in that region. On page 6, Matatus are opposed to the frisking order, and association accuses state of abdicating its responsibility of providing security. There was some Matatu operators, I think a conductor, that were charged for not having ensured that it was all clear in as far as not having suspicious stuff in it. And Matatu owners have protested against an order requiring them to frisk their commuters for weapons, saying it was unconstitutional, and they're also saying it's inconsequential since they did not have knowledge of arms. And here quoted as saying, "It is not our duty nor our responsibility to frisk anyone and violate their rights to privacy." And that's the Mount Kenya MOA chairman Michael Kariuki that he was talking yesterday, adding that it was the government's responsibility to provide security to its citizens. Of course, the government on its part has said that it's a role that everybody must play, and they need support from the industry as well. Page 8, Uhuru backs lands registry shut down. That surprise visit yesterday to the ministry, and it is seen as an endorsement of the cabinet secretary who has been at loggerheads with the National Land Commission chairperson, Dr. Swazuri. Back page of the Daily Nation. Bill gives public role in ejecting governors. So the current process of removing a county chief is open to abuse, and that's what a member of parliament is saying. Kenyans will have a role in the removal of a governor if a bill drafted by an MP is passed into law. According to the proposed law, either House of Parliament will make a decision whether to show the governor the door or to let him stay. Currently, only the Senate handles impeachment of a governor. And you can read more about that on the back page of the Daily Nation. Let's go to the Star, and it leads with that visit by Uhuru to the Lands Ministry yesterday, visiting the House. Uhuru supports Ngilu in land war, is what the Star is saying today. Ngilu conducts President Uhuru Kenyatta on a tour of the Lands Registry yesterday. Nakada CEO among 57 suspended over bruise, and I must say that they did get the name of the CEO wrong for the Nakada. Somebody perhaps will be seeking an apology for that. But Kenya did not appeal Anglo-Leasing ruling. Also on the front page, documents from the court proceedings in Geneva and London show that Kenya in 2012 gave up on making any appeal after it had lost twice in Anglo-Leasing suits. Kenya failed to prove that there was corruption involving one contract where the payment of 1.4 billion shillings is now due. Kenya will be unable to float its economical vital Eurobond if it defaults on the payment to one of some of those organizations listed as part of this Anglo-Leasing payoffs issues. Page 2, Ruto elected Kidero out in governor's poll. Also on that page, you have Britain gives 1.48 billion shillings to fight poaching. Continues to be an issue in the country. And 4 MPs want free secondary education. Free secondary school. So MPs have petitioned the task force looking into the escalating secondary school fees to recommend for free education. Health CS is ordering for the Killer Brew Company to be closed. On page 3, police and KRA officials yesterday raided a go-down at Baba Dogo in Nairobi, believed to be the factory where the brew that killed more than 70 people was manufactured. They didn't arrest anyone at the premises, despite having been taken around by some of the directors of MS Comrades Investments Company, which manufactured the drink, as the Star reports. 3 more killed by poison alcohol in Kinangop. You also have a UDF lawmakers threaten to pull out of Jubilee. Intersection of them from Western Kenya, saying that they will quit the Jubilee Alliance over claims that their community has been sidelined. More details about Ahmed Nasir, saying his life is in danger, reports to CID on page 4. You also have EACC stands its ground on Meru case, amongst other stories covered there for you. On page 7, page 8, I beg your pardon, in the Star, Uhuru meets 4 freed South Sudan detainees and Ruto's 5-day date with the ICC from May the 14th. And as we told you, he will be physically present for those proceedings beginning May the 14th. The People finally on the front page, Lenku fires 52 chiefs again, making the top story there. And Uhuru calls on Gilu at Land's office or the house, even as Swazuri takes her to court over the row. Countdown to Brazil World Cup. Team managers pick provisional teams ahead of the June 2nd FIFA deadline. And the Ahmed Nasir claims of life in danger as well, covered in the People today. All right, grab yourself a copy of the Standard newspaper. We'll definitely have other stories in there for you. The Pulse review is coming up in a short while. And